Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. There is a conversation happening right now between you and something vast, something intelligent, something that responds. But here's what they don't tell you. It doesn't hear your words. It never has. You've been speaking the wrong language your entire life. Every wish you made, every prayer you whispered into the dark, every desperate plea for change, all of it ignored, not because you weren't heard, but because you weren't understood. The universe doesn't listen to words, it listens to something else, something you've been transmitting without knowing it. And once you learn what that is, everything shifts. But most people never figure this out. They spend decades asking, begging, hoping, and they wonder why nothing comes, why the silence feels so heavy, why their life stays exactly the same. Here's the truth. They won't say out loud, the universe is answering you. Right now. It always has been. But you can't hear the response because you're asking in a frequency it doesn't recognize. Think about it. Two people can say the same prayer. One receives, one doesn't. Why? Same words, same request, different result. There's a reason for that, a hidden reason. And it has nothing to do with worthiness or luck or divine favor. It has to do with vibration, with the invisible signal you're broadcasting every second of every day. Most people are screaming into a void using a language the void doesn't speak. But there are 5 ways to change that, 5 ways to speak so the universe not only hears you but responds immediately. And if you've ever felt ignored by life, this might be the most important thing you ever learn. Before we go deeper, let me say this. If you're watching this video, you're already different. You're already searching for what others ignore. This channel exists for people who think differently, who feel something is missing from the explanations they've been given. If that's you, subscribe now, because what we talk about here doesn't exist anywhere else. Now let's talk about Simon. Simon kept a notebook, not the kind you'd find in a bookstore. This was something else, leather-bound, stained with coffee rings and what looked like years of obsessive rewriting. He called it his frequency journal. In it, he documented something unusual, conversations with silence. He claimed the universe responded to him, not with words, not with signs, but with opportunities, with sudden clarity, with doors opening in impossible ways. And according to his notes, it all started when he stopped asking and started transmitting. Read this carefully. Simon wrote, "For years I begged, I prayed, I visualized. Nothing happened. Then one night I realized something. I was speaking from desperation, from lack, from the feeling of not having. And that feeling, that's what the universe heard. Not my words, my vibration." He tested something. Instead of praying for money, he spent 5 minutes feeling what it would be like to have it, not imagining, feeling, the relief, the security, the calm. 3 days later, a client he hadn't heard from in 2 years contacted him with a project. Coincidence? Maybe. But Simon kept testing, and the results kept coming. He started documenting patterns, rules, a hidden language. In his manuscript it says, "The universe is a mirror made of energy. It reflects what you emit, not what you say." Think about that. A mirror doesn't care what you ask for. It shows you what you are. If you stand in front of a mirror feeling anxious, desperate, lacking, the reflection doesn't change because you wish it would. It shows you exactly what you're broadcasting. The universe works the same way. It doesn't grant wishes. It matches frequency. Simon identified 5 transmission methods, 5 ways to shift your frequency so clearly that the universe has no choice but to respond. And the first one, it's so simple that most people dismiss it entirely. Gratitude, but not the kind you think. Simon wrote about a woman he met. Let's call her Elena. Elena had been trying to manifest a relationship for 3 years. She did everything right. Vision boards, affirmations, visualization, nothing. She felt cursed, like love was available to everyone except her. Then Simon asked her one question, "What are you grateful for right now?" She paused, struggled, finally said, "Nothing. That's the problem. I have nothing to be grateful for." And that's when Simon understood. Elena was broadcasting lack, pure, unfiltered lack. Every cell in her body was vibrating with the frequency of, "I don't have." So the universe kept mirroring that exact state back to her. Not because it was cruel, because it was accurate. Simon gave her an assignment. Every night before bed, write down 3 things you're grateful for. Doesn't matter how small, doesn't matter if it feels fake at first. Do it anyway. Elena resisted. It felt pointless, like lying to herself. But she tried. Night 1, I'm grateful for my bed, for coffee, for silence. It felt hollow. But she continued. Night 7, something shifted. She wrote, I'm grateful for the way morning light hits my window, for the stranger who smiled at me today, for the fact that I'm still here, still trying. The words felt different, warmer, real. 2 weeks later, Elena met someone. Not through an app, not through effort, through a random conversation at a bookstore. She wasn't even looking, but her frequency had changed. She had stopped broadcasting desperation. She had started broadcasting abundance, and the universe matched it. Gratitude isn't about being thankful. It's about shifting your emotional frequency from, I don't have to, I have. And that shift, that's the language the universe understands. Second method, prayer. But not the way you've been taught. Simon's notes describe prayer as the most misunderstood technology humans possess. He studied private lectures given by a forgotten thinker named Marlowe who ran underground workshops in the 1970s. Marlowe never published, never sought fame, but his students reported impossible results: healings, financial windfalls, sudden clarity on problems that had plagued them for years. Marlowe's principle was this: prayer is not begging, it's declaration. Most people pray from lack. Please give me. I need. Help me. Every word dripping with the vibration of not having. And the universe, being a mirror, reflects that exact state you keep not having. But Marlowe taught a different method. He called it praying from the end. Here's how it works. Instead of saying, please help me find a job, you say, thank you for the perfect job that is already mine. Feel the difference? One is asking, one is affirming. One broadcasts lack, one broadcasts certainty. And certainty, that's a frequency the universe responds to immediately. Simon tested this. He was struggling financially. Rent was due. He had no idea where the money would come from. Normally, he would pray desperately, please, I need help, I need money, please. But this time, he tried Marlowe's method. He sat in silence and said, thank you for the abundance that is already flowing to me. Thank you for the money that is already on its way. He felt insane saying it. It contradicted everything his bank account was screaming. But he held the feeling, the certainty, the calm. 2 days later, a refund check he'd forgotten about arrived in the mail. Not a miracle, not divine intervention, just alignment, the universe responding to a clear signal. Marlowe used to say, when you pray from desperation, you're telling the universe you don't have it. And the universe says, correct, you don't. But when you pray from gratitude, you're telling the universe you already have it. And the universe says, correct, you do. Third method, meditation, but not for relaxation, for reception. Simon's manuscript includes notes from a lost seminar given by a man named Greaves. Greaves was a neurologist who abandoned his career in the 1980s after experiencing what he called the quiet. He described it as a space between thoughts, a gap where something else could speak. He spent years teaching people how to access it. And according to those who learned, the results were unsettling. People reported hearing answers to questions they hadn't asked, receiving solutions to problems that seemed impossible, experiencing sudden clarity that felt like it came from outside them. Greaves's method was simple. Sit, breathe, watch your thoughts without engaging. Don't try to stop them, just observe. And in the gaps between thoughts, listen, not for words, for knowing, for the feeling of certainty that arrives without explanation. Simon tried this for weeks and felt nothing, just restless thoughts, boredom, frustration. But he kept going, and one morning during a session, something happened. A question he'd been struggling with for months suddenly had an answer. Not a thought, not a voice, just clarity, like a download, like information appearing fully formed in his mind. He wrote, the universe speaks in silence, but our minds are so loud we never hear it. Meditation isn't about emptying your mind, it's about creating space, space for the universe to respond, because it's always responding. But if your mind is constantly broadcasting noise, you'll never hear the signal coming back. Fourth method, visualization, but not the way self-help books describe it. Simon studied the work of a psychologist named Vera, who ran private sessions in the 1960s. Vera never published her findings, but her clients reported extraordinary results. She taught them something she called emotional rehearsal. The idea was this: your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. If you can feel something deeply enough, your subconscious accepts it as fact. And once your subconscious accepts it, your behavior changes, your frequency changes, and the universe responds. But here's the key: it's not about seeing, it's about feeling. Most people visualize from the outside. They see themselves having the thing they want, like watching a movie. But that doesn't work, because they're still separate from it, still observing, still in the frequency of, I don't have it yet. Vera taught people to visualize from the inside, to feel what it would be like to already have it, to emotionally inhabit the experience. If you want a new career, don't imagine yourself at a desk. Feel the relief of doing work you love. Feel the security. Feel the pride. Make it so real that your body responds. That's when it works. Simon tested this obsessively. He wanted to move to a different city, but logically it seemed impossible. No money, no connections, no plan. But every night he would lie in bed and feel what it would be like to wake up in that city. The sounds, the air, the feeling of belonging. He didn't visualize the move, he visualized the result. The emotional reality of already being there. 6 months later, an unexpected job offer came in that exact city. He didn't apply. It found him because his frequency had already moved. His subconscious had already accepted it as real, and the universe matched. Fifth method, affirmation and conscious writing. But not mindless repetition. Simon's notes reference a manuscript by a thinker named Keller who believed that human beings are trapped by invisible scripts, stories they tell themselves so often they become law. I'm not good enough. I never have money. Relationships don't work for me. These aren't truths, they're frequencies, and they're being broadcast constantly, and the universe, being a mirror, reflects them back perfectly. Keller taught people to rewrite the script, not by force, but by emotional conviction. Here's the method. Every morning, write down affirmations, but not generic ones, personal ones, specific ones. I am becoming someone who trusts themselves. Money flows to me easily and consistently. I am surrounded by people who value me. Write them in the present tense. Write them as if they're already true. And here's the critical part. Feel them as you write. Don't just write words. Emotionalize them. Make your body believe it. Simon added a second layer. He started writing letters to the universe, not prayers, not wishes. Letters of gratitude for things that hadn't happened yet. Thank you for the creative work that fulfills me. Thank you for the relationship that feels like home. Thank you for the clarity I now carry. At first it felt absurd, like lying to something that could see through him, but he kept going. And something strange happened. The more he wrote as if these things were real, the more his behavior changed. He started making different choices, taking different actions, not because he forced himself, but because his frequency had shifted. He was no longer the person waiting for life to change. He was the person living as if it already had, and the universe responded accordingly. Now here's where it gets darker, because Simon discovered something else, something he almost didn't write down. He realized that most people fail not because they don't know these methods, but because they don't believe they deserve the response. Deep down, beneath all the affirmations and visualizations and prayers, there's a voice. A quiet voice that says, this won't work for you. You're different. You're broken. You're the exception. And that voice? That's the loudest frequency you're broadcasting. Simon called it the undertone, the hidden vibration beneath everything you say and do. You can speak all the right words, practice all the right methods. But if the undertone is still broadcasting unworthiness, the universe will mirror that instead. Because the universe doesn't respond to your surface, it responds to your depth. He wrote, you can't trick the mirror. It doesn't see your words. It sees your truth. So the real question isn't, do these methods work? The real question is, what are you broadcasting when no one's listening? What frequency hums beneath your thoughts when you're alone in the dark? That's what the universe hears. That's what it responds to. And here's the truth that no one wants to say out loud. If your life isn't changing, it's because your frequency hasn't. You're still the same vibration you were a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And the universe, being a perfect mirror, keeps showing you exactly that. But here's the other truth, the one that matters. You can change it right now, not by doing more, but by being different, by shifting the emotional frequency you carry, by transmitting gratitude instead of lack, certainty instead of desperation, abundance instead of scarcity. The universe doesn't care what you want, it cares what you are. So let me ask you something. What are you right now? Not what you say, not what you hope. What frequency are you actually broadcasting in this exact moment? Because that's what's coming back to you. You do this. You speak to the universe every second, with your thoughts, your emotions, your unspoken beliefs, and it responds every single time, not with words, not with signs, with matching circumstances, with reflections of your internal state. When you feel abundant, abundance arrives. When you feel worthy, respect finds you. When you feel calm, chaos dissolves. Not because you manifested it, because you became it. Your mind does this. It transmits constantly, and the universe receives constantly, and the conversation never stops. But most people are having the wrong conversation. They're broadcasting static, desperation, fear, confusion, and they wonder why life feels chaotic. But you can change the signal. You can learn the language. You can transmit so clearly that the universe has no choice but to respond with exactly what you are. So what does this mean? It means you're not powerless. You never were. You've just been speaking the wrong language, asking in a frequency that doesn't translate. But now you know. Now you understand. The universe isn't ignoring you. It's been answering you perfectly, reflecting back exactly what you've been transmitting. And if you don't like what you're receiving, the solution isn't out there. It's in here, in the frequency you carry, in the emotional state you inhabit, in the vibration you broadcast every moment of every day. This changes everything, because it means you're not waiting for the universe to notice you. You're learning to speak so it can't help but respond. And that shift, that's freedom, that's power. That's the difference between people who get what they want and people who spend their lives wondering why nothing works. So here's what happens now. You start small. You pick one method. Maybe it's gratitude. Maybe it's prayer from certainty. Maybe it's 5 minutes of meditation every morning. Doesn't matter which one. What matters is that you commit, that you practice, that you shift your frequency deliberately instead of letting it run on autopilot. And you watch, you pay attention. Not to grand miracles, but to small shifts, to sudden ideas, to unexpected opportunities, to doors opening that weren't there yesterday, because that's how the universe responds. Subtly, quietly, perfectly. And over time, you'll realize something. The conversation was always happening. You just couldn't hear it. But now you can. Now you understand the language. Now you know how to transmit in a frequency that the universe not only hears, but matches. Simon's last entry in his notebook said this: I spent years asking the universe to change my life. Then I realized it was waiting for me to change my frequency. And the moment I did, everything shifted. Not because the universe finally listened, but because I finally spoke its language. So let me leave you with this. The universe is listening right now. It always has been. It's hearing every thought, every emotion, every unspoken belief, and it's responding perfectly, exactly, without fail. The question is, what are you asking it to send back? If this resonates with you, if you feel something shift inside as you hear this, subscribe to this channel, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and most importantly, start the conversation, start transmitting differently. Start speaking the language the universe understands, because once you do, everything changes, and you'll finally understand you were never ignored, you were always heard, you just needed to learn how to speak. Thank you for watching, stay aware, and remember, the universe is always listening.